VI, especially non-Linux users who are new to Linux?
I was using Vim on Ubuntu 16.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the command is like vim.tiny in Ubuntu 16.
Okay, vim.tiny, okay.
Yeah, so if in Ubuntu 16, if you type vim, it won't do anything. But if you type vim and you tab it,
Mm-hmm.
then you should be able to run that command.
Okay, so with vim.tiny you are able to open the terminal?
Yeah, vim.tiny, that is used in Ubuntu 16. Which version you are using here?
I'm using CentOS 7.
Oh,
Let me
CentOS,
check.
okay. That was vim.tiny.
Anybody else tried? Okay, fine. Let us quickly see some more commands and go to Vagrant if possible, so that you can all practice. So how do we install one application on a Windows machine, right? So we want to install some third-party software on top of the Windows. So we download .exe, right, from net, and we just double-click on it. That will install, right? So in the same way, how do you install one application or one third-party software on Linux machine? Right, so a package we need to install on a Linux machine. So different distributions follow different methodologies, right? So different commands used by different distributions, provided by different distributions, right? So here Red Hat or SUSE or Fedora or CentOS. So they use something called RPM, Red Hat Package Manager, for managing the packages, right? You want to install, remove a package, check the package version, and all those things we can do using RPM command, right? So whereas Ubuntu, it uses something called dpkg, right? So here it ends with .exe, right? So here it ends with the .rpm. The extension is .rpm. Okay, here the extension is .dpkg. So it's like Debian package. Since this is developed by Debian community, the package name ends with .dpkg and .rpm, and the tool name is RPM here, and the tool name is dpkg here. So what is it? How to use that, right? So RPM-IVH, and let us say chef.rpm is to install chef, right? RPM-QA is to list all the packages installed, right? So RPM-E and chef.rpm is to remove a package. Okay, so in the same way, dpkg-L or -hi, then chef.dpkg is to install, dpkg-L to list, dpkg-R chef is to remove, right? So these are some of the commands we use regularly to install some tool, some DevOps tools on top of the Linux machine, right? So in Windows, we just download the package from net and just double click on it. It will install the package, right? It will install third-party software. Whereas in case of Linux, we have some commands that will do the job. What is it? RPM for Red Hat, SUSE, Fedora, and CentOS, dpkg for Ubuntu. So RPM-IVH indicates that I is for install, V is for verbose, H is for hash. So I is install, V is verbose, means the messages will be shown on the screen, right? And H is for hashes. It will show the percentage of completion, right? While installing the package, it will show 10% completed, 20% completed, like that. It will show the percentage in terms of hashes, like this. Okay. Then RPM-QA is for query all, means display all the packages which are installed on the machine, right? Next, RPM-E means erase. It will erase the package. It will remove the package. Then on Ubuntu, dpkg-I is to install, L is to list all the packages, R is to remove. So these are the primary commands which are used in package management. Okay. So let us try to check some commands. Okay, so this is CentOS. So the tool which I need to use is RPM. So if you just type RPM, it will show all the options, right? So for any command, if you don't know the syntax, or if you don't know what is it, you can just say man pages, man RPM. Okay, there is no manual entry. Some of the commands will not have manual entry. Some of the commands will have, let us say, man ls. I think man pages are not installed. So on a Linux machine, if we have the man pages installed, then let me see, let me go to some other machine. The usage of a command, or check the description of a command. So if you don't know some syntax, or if you don't know how to use the command, we can just say man and the command name. Let us say man ls. This will show information about the ls command, what is the description, what it does, and what all the options it has. ls has many options, many arguments, right? So all those arguments it will show. So generally they will be installed by default, but somehow on this distribution they are not available. I think we need to install these man pages. Okay, that we'll see in another distribution. So then I said RPM hyphen, let us say help. So any help is also another kind of command just to check the syntaxes. Any command just to check what are the options it has. Any command hyphen help or hyphen h will give you a lot of options, like what are the options it has. Right? RPM, let us say hyphen h, not h, so hyphen h, unknown option. Okay, help. So some of the commands may be hyphen h, some commands may be hyphen help, will display the usage. Okay, so let us try RPM-QA, query all. So this will display all the packages which are installed on the machine, right? So RPM-QA is a list. Let us say I want to check whether a package called chef is installed or not. So how do I check? So either I need to go through the entire list, or I have to have something like a control F. What is the command to check a certain pattern in the entire list? I just want to search for a particular package in RPM-QA output. RPM-QA output is huge. Now I want to check for something. How do I check?
Grep command.
Okay, so grep. RPM command has to be used only on the CentOS, Fedora, SUSE, Red Hat. On Ubuntu we have to use dpkg. So we'll dpkg is the command on Ubuntu, RPM is the command on CentOS, Fedora. Yeah, some of the classes we use Ubuntu as well. Okay, so rpm-qa grep for, let us say, chef. Chef is not available. Let us grep for Puppet. Yes, Puppet is available. So there are two packages which are available. So this way you can grep for the packages and get the output, right? So this will list all the packages which are installed on the machine. So let us see if I have some package to install. From net. I'll just say download chef client. The different architectures, hardware architectures, x86-64, S390X, PPC64LE, PPC64. So which is our hardware type? Based on that, we need to select package, right? So how do I find out my hardware architecture? If you just type uname-na on any Linux machine, it will give the hardware architecture. So in this case, it is x86_64. This is the hardware type. Okay, so I need to download the x86-64 hardware package only to install on this machine. So I want to install some third-party software. I need to install x86-64 software. So let me go to this and download some package, right? So how do I download the package? Just click on the download link, or there is also a URL. Directly it can be used to download the package. How do we use? Just copy this URL, and there is a command called wget. Downloads the package to Linux machine. Okay, so the options, how do we download the package? First is download to Windows machine. So you want to install some package, we need to download it. To download, we can download to Windows machine, and from there copy it to Linux machine, or then we can directly download to Linux machine. To download this, we should have internet connection. So if you have the internet connection, if you want to download the package, so there are two ways. If you are using a Vagrant VM, first we need to download to Windows machine, and then we can copy it to Linux, or we can directly download to Linux machine using what? Using wget utility, right? Or if you want to download to Windows and copy it to Linux, we need to use tools like WinSCP. WinSCP is a tool to copy from Windows to Linux or Linux to Windows, right? So so we use the second way, which is like using wget, we downloaded the package. Now if I do lsf and lrt, see, I have the package available. What is the extension of the package? .rpm. What is this? This is the version of the package, Chef 13.3 version, and this is the hardware architecture. Okay, so if I just say rpm-ivh and this, it will install the package. So this is what is verbose. So it will give the hashes. It will also give the percentage completion, right? Installed just now. Let us say I want to remove this package rpm-e. which is erase and enter. So this package will be removed. Now if I do rpm-qa grep chef, there is no package present. There is no output for this command, right? So this way we can install the package, delete the package, check for the package. So how do we download? Either using wget, or we can use download to Windows and use WinSCP to copy from Windows machine to Linux machine, right? So the extension of the package will be .rpm. Once you have installed, the package will be displayed like this without .rpm, right? Once you download the package, the extension will be like this. The package name hyphen version of the package .rpm. Prerequisite, I don't think there are any prerequisites, but I think Ruby has to be installed. Ruby is chef is written in Ruby. No, we are not starting with chef. I just give an example of how to install a package. Okay. So this is how we do package management in Linux. So wget is the utility to directly download the package from internet, and using the tools rpm or dpkg, we can install the package, we can check for the package, we can query for the package, and we can remove the package using the different options. Okay, and let's say there is one Linux machine 1 and there is another Linux machine 2, right? So I want to transfer a file, so it can be a log file or it can be a RPM file from one to other, right? What is it? Yeah, from next class we'll switch to Ubuntu. It's not only Ubuntu, right? So all the flavors are important. Anything is, Red Hat is also widely used, right? So we'll see all these things. I mean, there won't be too much of difference. There will be here and there some difference, like the package management is dpkg, or some other commands, like the log messages will be displayed in var-log messages in case of Red Hat. Maybe it is something else in case of Ubuntu, syslog messages. Okay, so I want to copy a log. So how do we copy this file? So it can be a log file or RPM file or anything, right? So we have some protocols that will copy, some commands that will copy from Linux machine 1 to Linux machine 2. One is FTP, other is SCP. This is file transfer protocol. This is secure copy protocol. Okay, so what happens if you just type FTP and the machine 2? So it will ask username and the password of the machine 2. Once we provide the machine, we'll be in the prompt of machine 2. Then we can transfer the file from one machine to other machine. So here, what is the difference between FTP and SCP? FTP is, again, the password is not secured. If you enter the password over the wire, anybody can hack it, same like Telnet. Whereas SCP is secured, the password will be sent encrypted like SSH, right? So SCP is preferred all the time. So use SCP to transfer a file from one machine to other machine. So let us bring up another machine and check how to do SCP. So now I want to bring up Ubuntu 16.10 operating system. I have Vagrant installed, I have Git installed, and I also have Oracle VirtualBox installed. Now I have this Vagrant file, which is vagrant.configure this is the version 2 and the box name is Ubuntu Xenial 64. So I want to have a box. I want to have a VM with Ubuntu Xenial 64, and this we'll see later. So the name of the box is something we can give, my VM box or something. Okay, so I'll send you this file. So I'll just say vagrant up. This should get the VM up with the Ubuntu version. First I'll try to download the image from the net, which is pre-installed image. Then it will bring the machine up with the Ubuntu operating system. So the syntax is, let us say, server 1 is the host name of the machine 1, server 2 is the host name of the machine 2, and there is a directory called /a here, there is a directory called /b here, and I want to transfer a file called chef.log from server 1 to server 2, and I want to copy from /a to /b. So how do we transfer from server 1 to server 2? So SCP and the username and the password of the server 2. So it's a root @server 2, then slash, sorry, I want to transfer /a, right? So I need to give file name as well. So scp/a chef.log. This is the file which I want to transfer to machine 2, in which path? /b. So if you enter this, it copies /a chef.log from server 1 to server 2. Which path on server 2? To /b, right? From which path? From /a. So there are two servers, server 1 and server 2, and there are two directories, /a/b, and this chef.log is available on /a on server machine, on server 1. Now I want to transfer this to server 2. I want to transfer it to /b. So how do I transfer? scp/a chef.log space root. This is the root user ID for the server 2. So it will ask the password. We need to enter password for server 2. Okay. Then server 2 /b. This will copy the file /a chef.log from server 1 to server 2 into a directory called /b. Okay. Just a second, there is some problem with this machine. Okay, so this is to copy from server 1 to server 2, and we'll copy a file called /a.cheflog from location /a to /b. So this is first scenario. This is how we transfer from machine 1 to machine 2. Let us say I want to transfer a file from machine 2 to machine 1. So let us say I'm working on server 1 and I have server 2 here, right? Then the same way /a and /b is there, and there is a file called 1.log. Now I'm inside server 1. So here I'm working on server 1. Here also I'm working on server 1. Right? Now I want to get the package. So here we copied from our machine to the remote machine. Here I want to copy from remote machine to our machine. So again, a little bit different syntax, SCP, then we need to give the root at the rate server2 colon the path 1.log. Then where do you want to copy? /a. So this will copy the file b1.log from server 2 to server 1. Okay, you can see the difference in the syntax. In the first case, we have given the file name first, then we have given the destination location. Here in the second case, we have given the file name with root at the rate of server 2 because this file is present on the server 2. Then where do you want to copy on server 1? That we have given in /a. Okay, so these are the two syntaxes which we can use to copy the files from different servers. Either we can transfer from server 1 to server 2, or we can transfer from server 2 to server 1. Is this clear? Okay, our machine is up. So I'll say Vagrant SSH, that will log into the Vagrant machine. So this is the Ubuntu machine. And if I do sudo -su, this will log as root. By default, will be logged in as Ubuntu user. If you want to log in as root, sudo su-. So this is like super user. It will log in as a root. Right? Now, how do I check the Linux version?
Cat etc Red Hat.
Which is a star release. If I say, it says Xenial 64, which is the operating system name, and the version is Ubuntu 16.04. The distribution version is 16.04. Now let us try to transfer a file from machine 1 to machine 2. Right? So let us create a file now. Right? So I'll just create a file called 1.log. Then I'll just write something, hello world, August 18th, 2017, and just save it. Right? So I just created a file 1.log. If I do cat 1.log, I have some content. Now I want to transfer this file to my other machine. Right? So from machine 1 to machine 2. Let us say I will create two directories /a. I want to copy it to /a. Where am I? I am in root. So the file is available in root1.log. This is the file which you want to transfer from server. Let us say this is our server 1 and this is our server 2. So how do I transfer? I should have the host name or the IP address of the machine. This is the destination machine. This is the source machine. Now let me get the IP. To get the IP, the command is ifconfig. Okay, ifconfig is the command to get the IP of a machine. To list the IP address on Linux. What is the command on Windows? To check the IP address of a machine.
ipconfig.
ipconfig is the command to get the IP address of the machine on Windows. Windows also you can just say cmd and just type ipconfig all. This will display the IP address. IP for address. Okay, so I have got the IP now. This is the IP. This is the private IP. This is the public IP. We'll see that later. What is that? But for now, I copied this IP and I have to frame the command. So what is the command I need to use? SCP and the file which I want to transfer. Let us say I'm on server 2. So /b. What is the log we created? 1.log. Then the destination machine IP address, but we need to give the username root@, and then we have to give the directory where do you want to copy. Let us say slash, right? So this should work. So let us try to execute the same thing on the Linux machine. So this is my source, right? So from here I want to copy that to the destination. So I'll just paste this. Okay, this is IP. SCP, the file name is root1.log, root@IP slash, let us say I want to copy it to temp. So here if you see on the machine, let us go to temp and see there is no file. So we just want to copy. So enter. It will ask, do you want to connect? Yes. And it will ask the password. Once you enter the password, it will copy the file. Now if you do lsfnlrt, there is a file which is copied, 1.log. What is the content? So this has the same content, hello world and something, right? So what is the time it is copied? You can just compare using date. So 13/8 and 13/8. So few seconds back, this file is copied from server 2 to server 1, right? Is this clear? Now let us modify some content. See, we copied a file from server 2 to server 1. So I just copied this file, which is root1.log to temp on the destination machine. So we are on source machine, we copied to destination machine. Let us say I want to copy the same file which is in temp 1.log to my home directory. Let us say I want to copy it to /home, the same file. Okay. Yeah, SSH is not started by default. So let me see. So there are some settings we need to make on a newly installed machine to make SSH or SCP working. So what are the settings? The first thing is we need to edit a file called etc sshd_config, right? So the file is etc sshd_config, and to allow root to log in, there is a something we need to change. What is it? Permit root login is equal to that. We need to make it yes. That is the only change. Permit root login equal to yes, otherwise it will not allow. So I want to log in as root, right? So what is that? Permit root login equal to SSH is installed by default. So you just need to change this parameter from something else to just yes, right? Then restart SSH. How do we restart? Service SSH restart. This will restart the SSH, right? What is SSH? SSH is a process or a daemon, right? So I'll just say service SSH restart. Now I should be able to, I also need to set a password for root. What is the command to set a password? Password is a command to set a password. So if you just enter password, it will ask you to enter updated successfully. Okay. SCP root at the rate, and what is the IP address? This is IP address, colon, it is, the file is a if you enter the password, okay, I have given the directory name, I should give the file name. What is the file name? 1. So this will copy the file 1.log to current directory. So whatever we entered here is present. Is it clear? So there are two things. One is, how do we copy from server 1 to server 2? How do we copy the same file if it is available on server 2? Right? So here we copied a file which is present on server 1. Here we copied a file which is available on server 2. So from server 1 to server 2, server 2 to server 1. But we are working on server 1. So SCP and the file name root and server 2 colon B. So this file will be copied to server 2 in the location /B. In the same way, on server 1 SCP, so I want to copy a file from server 2 to server 1 into a location called /A. So this way we can copy files from different servers. Yes, we can use another user. Instead of root, we have to give that username, whatever is your user. Okay. So what is the command to check IP address of a machine? Ifconfig. And what is the command to check hostname of a machine?
uname-u.
Yeah, so either uname-na or hostname is a command. So basically to check the file name, right? Permission denied. You are getting the permission denied. Then try giving the permissions like read and write. What is the command to change the permissions?
chmod permissions.
Okay, so how do we add a user to a Linux machine?
User add command.
Okay, so let us try that. So this is clear, right? So we copy a file from server 1 to server 2, or we can copy from server 2 to server 1. So you can just remember this thing. Or if you don't remember, just type SCP. It will give the syntax. Okay, so SCP and a lot of other options are there, but we can use this user at the rate of host1 and file1. This will copy from server 1 to server 2. Okay.
Okay.
And on Ubuntu machine, how do I check the packages installed? dpkg-l. So this will list all the packages. So these are the packages which are installed. So let us say I want to search for something, dpkg-l grep python. So these are all the packages which are installed. So Python comes by default with OS. Okay. So what is the command to get download a package from net to Linux machine? So wget is the package command to directly copy a file from internet to the Linux machine, right? So let us try to create a user. So where do we find the information about the users? So there will be some users created by default. Is it copied from home? Yes, you can copy from anywhere. No, you can copy it to anywhere. It's like in the current directory it will download. Let us say you are in temp and you execute a wget here, so it will download to your current directory. Okay. Now there are some default user created, so you can also check with ID. The current user is root. The group which he belongs to is again root, right? So UID, there will be a number associated with every user. So it is 0 for root, right? Now I want to see all the users inside this in the Linux machine, right? So there is a file called etc password that contains information about all the users. If you just say etc password, if you open it, these are all the users which are already created by system, right? So now I want to create my own user. I want to create a new user. How do I create? So there is a command called user add. Just type user add, it will give the syntax how to use the command, right? So when I say user add, he will when I'm trying to add a user, he will have a home directory, right? So that we have to give information, and then he'll have a shell by default with which he has to log in. Install an application in Linux. Once installed SQL, how can I use? Is there any GUI or we have to follow some commands? So by default, let us say for SQL, you don't have any graphical user interface. You have to use some SQL commands, SQL connect or something, SQL plus to connect to the database and write something. Okay. So there will be some commands which will provide the graphical user interface. Some tools, something like Chef Server. If you install, you can open the graphical user interface, right? Or if you have Jenkins installed, you can open the graphical user interface. Okay, we'll see them. So let us try to create a user. User add -d/home. Let us say user1, and then -m. This is for the shell. Bin sh, and then -c, some optional comment. Okay, then what else? -m, -s. This is -s. Then -b. So I want to create a user. So basically user will be associated with a home directory. Once he logins, he has to log in into his home directory. So we need to create the user home directory, and there is a shell, default shell, which user logs in. So there are different shells available: ksh, sh, bash shell, etc. Right? So bash is the advanced of all. So shell is something like where we type the commands, right? It's an interface between the kernel and the user, right? So here we need to specify which shell he has to log into. So by default, some of the Unix operating systems will provide ksh, and most of the Linux operating systems will provide bash as the default shell. So we need to provide a shell, right? And then there is an option to specify some comment also. This is optional. Then if we specify all these things, a user will be created, a home directory will be created, and that user will be associated with a particular shell. And when we log in with that particular user to the machine, he will be inside his home directory, right? So let us try to create that. User add -d home directory, -s shell, and -c comment, and -m. -m is to create the home directory. Without -m, it will not create the home directory. So let us try to execute this and create a user. So how do we create user add -d home directory, -s, let us give bash shell because that is the advanced one, and then we have some optional comment -m at the end. -m is to actually manage me. It will create a home directory. Something is wrong with the syntax.
Give the user ID, username.
Oh, sorry, username I have not given. So user 1. So this is the username which I want to create. If I enter, there will be a user created with the name user1 with home directory, this thing. How do I check whether a user is created or not?
ID user one.
ID, I'll be in the root user. I am the root user, so I have not switched to user1, right? So how do I list all the users available on the Linux machine? etc
Cat it is password.
password. So if you see in the end, there will be a new user created called user1. This is the one which just now we have created. Home user1, 1001. This is the UID. This is the GID, group ID, comment, and the shell. Right? So now if I see lsfnlrt/home user1, so there will be a directory created. Okay. So how do I log in as that user? Now I am working as root. So if I do su-user1, I log in as root. See, if you see, the prompt is changed. What is my present working directory? By default, I'll be in /home user1. Okay. How do I set the password for myself? Password user1. It will ask to set the password. So you can set any password. Okay, I think we need to set as root. So as a root, I need to set password for user1. So I'll get some password. So this will set the password. So by default, if I just enter password, it is for the root. If I give some user ID, it is for that particular user. So we can set password for different users using the root permission. So we just created a user and we have also set the password. Then we can log into that machine using this particular user. So how do we log in from other machine? SSH-L, and what is the username? User1, and the IP address or the host name. So this is how we log into this particular machine from another machine. Is it clear? User add is a command to add a user, and we need to provide all these options to create the user. And where do we check the users created? In etc password. How do we set the password? Using password command. And how do we log in? SSH-L user. And how do we switch between the users? su- and the username. su-root or su-user1. So this will switch the user on the same machine. Is this clear?
Yes.
Okay. So any issues with Vagrant? So once you install Vagrant and Oracle VirtualBox and Git Bash, create a directory and say Vagrant in it. That will create a Vagrant file. And in the Vagrant file, anything is fine, but you have to install the VM. But here we don't have to install VM if you use Vagrant, right? So there is something called base that you can change it to Ubuntu Xenial 64, and then just say Vagrant up. This will create the VM, and then you can log into the using Vagrant SSH and then type commands. And to log into user root, sudo su- is the command. Okay.
One quick question about Vagrant. I haven't tried it, but is there a sequence like first you have to install the Vagrant or Git, or what is the exact sequence?
Anything
Because
works. Anything you can install. Anything faster. Anything
if
is
you
fine.
install, yeah, if you install the Git, and do you have to browse to the where you install the Vagrant and then
No,
type the
not not required. It works from anywhere. Just install Git, install Oracle VirtualBox, and then Vagrant, then open Git Bash and create a directory and go inside directory and then say Vagrant in it. It works from anywhere.
Oh, well, I have tried that. It didn't work because when I tried, I have tried like install the Git, and when I tried, I have created the directory, but when I go and type in Vagrant like in it, it won't recognize the command.
You
So,
had to
but
reboot
anyways,
after installing it. Did you reboot the machine?
no. Oh, you reboot the machine? Okay.
Yeah, it will saying something like Vagrant install, please reboot. So
Okay.
once you reboot, then only the changes will come into effect.
I got
And you have to also enable the virtualization technology by going into boot menu.
Yeah, that is okay. That is working fine. Okay, I got you.
Okay, yeah. Try rebooting the machine. I think it will work.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, one more thing, Santosh, I asked you same thing yesterday about so this course again. Is it after this course you can go for DevOps positions, or like what would be your target job after this job after this
Yeah, yes. DevOps positions.
DevOps positions, not software development, something like that, but a
No,
DevOps. Yeah.
it's purely to DevOps, not related to development.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So there will be scripting. A lot of scripting will be there, but it's not pure development like Java or C or C++ or .NET.
Okay. Is it a lot of PowerShell scripting or is it different scripting?
It's Bash scripting, or it's Python scripting, or it's so Chef we write cookbooks, Ansible we write playbooks, Puppet we write manifests.
Do you also cover Blue Notes?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
Practice. So at least this thing. What is it? Getting the environment ready. Again, I think I repeated this multiple times. Okay, all .exes if you are using Windows machine, open git bash, just type git bash in the and before that please make sure you have virtualization enabled and you have rebooted the machine. Then you have go to start menu, open git bash, and then say Vagrant init. This will create the initialize. It will create the Vagrant file. Open the Vagrant file and then change that base to Ubuntu Xenial 64 or Ubuntu Precise 64. Right? Then say Vagrant up. This will create the Vagrant machine for you. Right? So what is happening internally? So there is something called HashiCorp site, which is cloud. There all the Vagrant images are present. So when you say Vagrant up, it will download this particular pre-installed image to your laptop, and using Oracle VirtualBox, it will create a VM and it will boot with this particular image. So you don't have to do the installation. Everything is ready and you have a ready-made VM available. Then you just say Vagrant SSH, you log into the machine as a Vagrant user. Then if you do sudo su hyphen, you log in as root. Then you can execute all the commands, whatever we discussed so far, right? Try this, all these things. So basically this is, you're virtualizing your laptop. On top of that, you're creating a virtual machine. On that you have Ubuntu pre-installed. So you have everything ready. Now you can practice the commands, all the Linux commands, and you can have multiple VMs as well, like this. Now let us say you created a directory here, right? What is that? mkdir vagrant1, right? You can create another directory mkdir vagrant2, and then you can again follow the same procedure to have another VM. Is this clear? So going forward, we'll be using a lot of tools, right? So all these tools we try to install on the Vagrant VMs. So let's say we are talking about Puppet. So we get 2 VMs ready, and then on top of one we install Puppet server, on top of other we install Puppet agent. Then we establish the communication, and we try to configure, write the manifest and all that stuff. So before we start, it's better if you have practiced all this. So basically you need to get comfortable with Linux, all the basic commands, creating the files, deleting the files, listing the files, opening a file, manipulating the file, working on the file, creating the user, setting the password, logging into different machines. So all this stuff you have to get familiar with, checking the IP address, checking the hardware architecture. So all these things, if you're comfortable, we can go with the, we'll see again Vagrant, basically how to stop a VM, how to start a VM, how to delete the VM, how to have a public network, how to establish communication between the VMs. But right now, the task is just get a development environment ready in your local machine. Is this clear? Just open Google and say download Vagrant, take the first link. So whatever is available, take it. I think that's the latest one. If you install Git, you'll get Git Bash. Git Bash is a terminal to type the commands, and Oracle VirtualBox is a hypervisor that will virtualize the hardware. And Vagrant is a tool that is like end-to-end automation for avoiding the installation. You don't have to do the installation. Installation is already done. There is an image which is available, using which we create a VM and we boot up with only these commands. Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.